Gemini Man's intriguing premise isn't necessarily new, but the Ang Lee-directed sci-fi thriller presents a number of chances to look at a familiar story in ways that other movies haven't. These are just some of the implications left hanging by the end of the film, and what they mean for the people left standing. Even before he realizes that he's unwittingly been roped into a massive conspiracy involving a secret cloning program and a clone of himself growing up right under his nose, Will Smith's Henry Brogan is tired. He finds himself slowing down, losing his touch, and more importantly, he's beginning to struggle with his job a little more. Killing people is no longer a satisfying bit of service to his country. It's something he struggles to live with. The journey of Gemini Man is Henry's journey to quite literally contend with himself and his place in the world, and he comes out the other side of it feeling a little better about himself. His defeat of Gemini leader Clay Verris allows him to sleep a little easier at night, he admits he can finally look in a mirror, and he's found a surrogate son who just happens to share his exact DNA profile in Junior. Henry Brogan's killer instinct might not go away overnight, and neither will his guilt or any traces of post-traumatic stress, but he has people in his life who care about him at last, and that's a good start. We get less character development on the side of Junior, Henry Brogan's young clone who was adopted as Clay Verris' son, but we know enough to understand that he's got a tough road ahead of him. Junior was created to be the ultimate killer, a man with all of Brogan's natural skills and athleticism, but none of the emotional issues he grew up with. In talking with Junior, Henry revealed that Clay's attempts at taking all of those issues away from Junior didn't work. The young clone still struggles with issues of inadequacy, with nightmares, and with struggling to find joy anywhere besides on the other side of a gun.
I'm guessing 19, 20 years old, the first time he ordered you to shoot a person.
By the end of the film, Junior, renamed Jackson Brogan at his request, has found some degree of actual, tangible joy in his life, and most of it comes in the form of choice. He seems genuinely happy at the end of the film, but this isn't the end of his struggles. He's dealing with the weight of psychological trauma sustained throughout his relationship with his adoptive father, but thankfully, he's got people in his corner to help him out. From the moment we meet her in the film, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's Dani proves to be a resourceful and sharp DIA operative. Over the course of Gemini Man, she keeps proving that she's always cool under pressure, despite being propelled into one of the most improbable situations of her career. By the end of the film, Dani and Henry are close friends, and Dani has even become at least somewhat close to Jackson Brogan, Henry's young clone. More than that, though, she reveals that she's been promoted within the DIA, a likely result of the restructuring that had to take place once the Gemini cloning project was brought to light and ultimately dismantled. That puts Dani in a position to not just help Henry and Jackson as they try to get on with their lives, but to hopefully prevent anyone from meddling in Jackson's future as he tries to simply enjoy his 20s, free from the life of an assassin. At one point in the film, Henry and his old Marine buddy Baron are talking about their history with Clay Verris. They both recount how he asked them to join up with his new venture and how they both declined. Baron, in fact, said no and then moved to a different continent, putting him at least somewhat out of Verris' reach. Henry stayed in America and later found out that Verris had used his blood to create a perfect super soldier clone. As the film unfolds, we learn more and more about the dark dealings of Gemini, including the last-minute revelation that Verris created at least one more clone of Henry and managed to edit out his sense of pain. By the time the film is over, Henry's old friend Dell assures him that the Gemini lab has been shuttered, hopefully putting an end to Verris' secretive dealings. Any fan of spy movies knows that it can't possibly be that simple, though. The film leaves us hanging, but there has to be something more. So we know that Junior was cloned from a sample of Henry's blood more than 2 decades earlier, and he was raised from infancy by Clay Verris. At some point in the intervening years, Verris took that endeavor a step further and cloned Henry again, this time drafting a top scientist to edit out things like pain sensitivity from the second clone's genetic code.
Look what we created. You were the inspiration for all of this.
Why not just make a whole army full of them?
So Gemini Man posits a world in which a rich paramilitary contractor has had viable cloning technology in his hands for more than 20 years. And in that time, he's found a way to breed super soldiers that don't feel pain. What else has he figured out? How many other scientists has he spoken to? And perhaps most importantly, who else has access to this technology? Now that Verris is dead, is someone else going to finish what he started? If there's a sequel to Gemini Man, that seems like fertile ground to explore. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.